Hi, it's Alistair from Electric Scotland, doing the introduction for my newsletter for 20 September 2019. Right, let's see. The news I got in just a few minutes before I putting this newsletter to bed was that I've just heard that Barry Leslie, who was the first commissioner for clans, that's Clan Leslie in Australia and New Zealand, has passed away. I got an email from Stan Bruce giving me the story, so I've put some notes down for you, and I've given you a contact address, so if any of you want to get in touch with the family, you'll have their address and email address. Okay, so sad story there. Okay, the news this week. Well, I start off with Europe beat the USA 14.5 to 13.5 to win at Gleneagles. That was the ladies' golf, and apparently the wildcard pick, Suzanne Patterson, hold an 8-foot putt on the last to win the trophy, and she's now retired basically. So that was her last professional game. So, next story is Education Review ordered amid subject choice concern. This is quite a big story. It's essentially the education in Scotland has been going downhill for some time, and of course we used to be the best in the world, but we're no longer there for sure, and apparently this effort to try to sort it, they've got John Swinney, who was the First Minister, or he was the leader certainly of the SNP for a while, and he was Finance Minister. He's quite very senior in the SNP, but I have to say he seems to be totally inept when it comes to education. And of course Nicola Sturgeon said, you know, if I don't sort education out, I will resign. Well, you know, the time has come when she needs to go, because frankly it's making a mess of it. I mean, the kids in Scotland are now not getting the full choice of subjects. They're getting a narrower range, and of course there's genuine concern about things like that, you know. So this review hopefully might reveal something or other. We'll just see how it goes. And then I noticed the Galloway Hills Rally in southwest Scotland in pictures from the BBC. You know, it's amazing, considering the BBC is meant to be a television company, it's pretty hopeless at showing you any actual video. They end up giving you pictures. I mean, why do we need a television company to give us pictures? But they seem to be the only one that was really covering this rally. I was actually on the rally as an official. This is many, many years ago now. But because I had a radio license, I was there to as a kind of, I can't remember what they called it. I mean, you were part, basically, at a certain part of the site, of the track, where there could be issues. And if anyone got stuck or anything like that, you could actually go on the radio and warn people to stop the next car coming. If there was, I mean, that very rarely happened. People had accidents, but they got up and went on. But it was obviously a safety thing there. But anyway, it just reminded me of the time when I was working with my fellow director, John Wilson, who used to be with me at Almac in the old days, because he was big time into the rally stuff. So anyway, some nice pictures there. Then the next story I've got for you is Airbus. French exporters reel as US tariffs loom in subsidy row. Shares in Airbus and French luxury goods exporters fell on Monday as the European Union acknowledged it may face US tariffs in a long-running dispute over aircraft subsidies, part of an escalating tit-for-tat trade row. And I think this just illustrates the fact I've been saying for a few years now that I think Donald Trump is waiting for Britain to come out of the EU, and then he's going to start imposing tariffs on the EU, because as we are out, they won't affect Britain. And frankly, I think this is more and more coming to the fore now. So there you go. Then there's an article, the EEC, EU and the economy. The Remain case for staying in the EU is always biased on the unproven economic advantages. That's from John Redwood, MP. He's actually, well, I don't know, I quite like the guy. He's got some sensible things to say, so you may wish to read that. Next story is Stranraer Oyster Festival has come of age. I didn't even know Stranraer had an oyster festival. But anyway, it said the South of Scotland seafood celebration has come of age with visitor numbers up an estimated 25% on last year. Excuse me. Right. Scotland's top fish and chip shop named in UK awards. It says it's the top prize in the calendar for the fish and chip industry, and this year an eatery in Stonehaven has taken the Scottish crown. I often think Canadian fish and chip places should go to Scotland and see how they do it over there, because they don't seem to be nearly as busy. I mean, I remember if you went to kind of peak dining hours, there was a queue out the door at my local one, although it went pretty fast because they had a great system in place. Then who owns the sky? This is a CapEx story, and I'd encourage you to have a wee read at this one. It says we may be on the cusp of an entirely new kind of aviation industry. And of course things like drones, and we're almost getting to the point where aircraft can fly themselves. So it's kind of interesting thinking about the future there. Next story is beyond Brexit, what a US-UK trade deal will really look like. It said Britain is bogged down in a mire of Brexit minutiae. It's time to look at the bigger picture again. Then, the Canada election. Is Justin Trudeau in trouble? This is the Canada elections 2019, which goes on for about, I think, 6 weeks or something like that, I think now. So, Scottish independence. Poll shows a majority of Scots will vote Remain in the UK. A majority of Scots will vote to stay in the UK in a fresh independence referendum, new polling indicates. Because, you know, the polls go from down, up, I mean, they're all over the place. So, the little known world of the tap water tasters. I just thought I'd pop this in because I actually took the time and trouble to read this because I thought, it says, like a wine taster, Sarah pulls the glass towards her nose and swirls the contents to release the complex aromas before tasting and spitting into a bucket. Very like what they do with wine, but apparently she does it with just water. And apparently they check it against a known bottled water. So they kind of freshen their mouth with bottled water that's particularly fresh or something, and go from there. Okay. Next story is UK inflation falls to the lowest since 2016 in pre-Brexit boosts to consumers. So consumer prices in Britain rose last month at the slowest rate since December 2016. A pre-Brexit boost to the spending power of households, who are also seeing the fastest wage growth in 11 years. So that's good news, certainly. That means people are better off. And then another CapEx story says China's economy runs on corruption and the state is scared. It says corruption in China impacts upon every area of the economy. So again, if you want to understand China, that's why when I talk about the prospects for Britain outside the EU, I don't normally bother mentioning China, because I think we might do something with them, and probably will, but I wouldn't bank on it. And then the final story is Scottish ship praised for life-saving role on Bahamas, Hurricane Dorian rescue operation. So the Royal Fleet's auxiliary Mounts Bay helped save hundreds of lives during relief efforts. Great wee story that, and some fascinating pictures as well. So, that's the news stories I got for you this week. On to Electric Canadian. A history of Canadian journalism. In the several portions of the Dominion, with a sketch of the Canadian Press Association, 1859 to 1908, edited by a committee of the Association in Toronto in 1908. And then In a Canadian Canoe, The Nine Muses -1, and other stories by Barry Payne. This is a third edition, and usually when things go to third edition, it means it was obviously popular at the time. 1891. Trouble is, what is interesting in 1891 is probably no longer of that interest, but nevertheless, you want to get a feel for the old timers in Canada. That's a good book. Then Homeward from California Through the Magnificence of the Canadian Rockies. It's by the Canadian Pacific Railway Company. So, small book, it's 40 pages, something like that, but it's certainly nice to read. Items of German-Canadian Folklore. And it's funny, because when I started reading the book, it says that a lot of these might be confused for Scottish or English folklore stories. But nevertheless, they're claimed to be German, so I thought, well, as we're big time into folklore here, I'd put that one up. Then the Canadian Soldier's Songbook. So this edition of the Soldier's Songbook is donated to the YMCA by Mr. and Mrs. William Southam of Hamilton, Ontario, in memory of their son, Gordon Hamilton Southam, officer commanding the 40th Battery, CFA, 3rd Division, who was killed at the Battle of the Somme, October 15th, 1916. But I almost remember that time I spent with Billy in BC, because we were out at this pub, and I think it was it was his son's graduation from school, and his family came over from Glasgow to help celebrate, and they were starting to sing some old Scottish songs, and a lot of people were singing along with us, even though they weren't Scottish. But suddenly a Canadian comes up and says, "Don't you guys know any Canadian songs?" And we all kind of looked a bit embarrassed. Said, "Oh, Canada is about the only one we know, I'm afraid, sorry." And so I made a habit after that, when I started creating the Electric Canadian site, to go look for songs and stuff like that. So I've actually built up quite a collection over the years. So there's no excuse not to know Canadian songs now. Then the final one I got up is the Canadian Bookman. This is a monthly review of contemporary literature devoted to the interests of Canadian book buyers. And I will say there's another 4 copies on the Internet Archive if you enjoy reading this one. It's 1909, and it is volume 1. So then on to Electric Scotland. A National Fisheries Society by Charles Edward Fryer, 1883. It just shows you how the National Fisheries Society came about, basically. It's quite a nice wee history there. Then I've got the Irish Scots and the Scotch Irish, an historical and ethnological monograph with some reference to Scotia Major and Scotia Minor, to which is added a chapter on how the Irish came as builders of the nation. That's by the Honourable John C. Lynham, and was produced in 1902. We've got our Best Newfangled Family Tree, got it in the October Section 2 issue. And then just mentioning about Jim, who had Caledonian Kitchen, did that famous haggis that he won awards for in Scotland. So, and I've got a couple of tins in my cupboard of that. But unfortunately he died, so... I mean, there's some big names that have been dying recently, but again, that's life, isn't it, I suppose, but still, he was a very nice guy. Then Transactions of Institution of Engineers and Shipbuilders of Scotland. I found a review of this institute, and so I thought I'd put that up on that page. So you might be interested in that. And then the Home Preacher added the 7th service given by Dr. Cairns. And I might add that with Pat doing it, we're not sure we can continue to put up pictures of the actual ministers because there's a copyright issue there. But we're going to look for biographies of them, and hopefully in the biographies there may be a picture we can use. So we're going to go back through everything and see what we can find, and if we can find them, we'll add them so you can read about the ministers there. Okay, then Watt Anniversary Lecture. This is on the 14th of January 1887 in honour of the birthday of James Watt by Mr. Robert Duncan on evolution in naval architecture during the reign of Queen Victoria. And then I am to get the Sunday magazine. The reason I found this is actually edited by W.G. Blakey, DD and LLD in 1873. And there's a few other copies on the Internet Archive, but I just brought you this one. The reason I'm doing that is that I was looking for information on one of the ministers in the Home Preacher, and I clicked on a reference, and it was in this copy of the Sunday magazine. It's over 1,000 pages, that Sunday magazine, so it's huge. But I'm going to OCR that wee bit in to put it into the Home Preacher when I get to the appropriate service for that. So that's how I found it. And I thought, well, I'll put up one copy for you to have read at. And if you enjoy it, I mean, there's tons in it to read, there's all kinds of stuff. And then videos on tartans. I noticed all the videos I put up from YouTube are all missing. So I've now replaced them with a new selection. You know, there's got to be something that YouTube should be able to do. It's unacceptable that they put videos up and then just disappear. Always got to watch that. Okay, and then Russia. Its History and Condition to 1877 in 3 volumes. It's by Sir Donald Mackenzie Wallace. And it's, if you look at bullet 12 on the Russia page, that's where you'll get the 3 volumes that you can download. So that's it for Electric Scotland. Oh yeah, the story this week is Named Person Scheme Scrapped by the Scottish Government. I had wondered what was happening with that, because I don't know if you remember the case was being contested all the way through the courts. And then the Supreme Court in Scotland said it can go ahead, and as the last attempt they took the Supreme Court of the UK, which knocked it back because they said it was against EU law, which it was. But as I said at the time, there's the Scottish top lawyers had no clue that they had to take into account EU law, which of course is over the top of Scottish and British law. So to me it just goes to show how stupid these Scottish judges really are. They're obviously not clever people, or they're lazy. And this is where we get this problem with this proroguing of Parliament, that the Scottish judges again said it was unlawful. But they're really stupid, these Scottish judges, and I fully expect that to be voted down by the Supreme Court of Britain. But anyway, I thought you might like to read about the named person scheme, because it was a big contentious issue. And it was 3 years ago that judgment was handed down. It's taken the SNP 3 years to scrap it. And it, I mean, it's cost millions and caused untold harm all over the place. So I'll give you the story about it so you can read it for yourself. So that's the story for this week. And basically that's it. I must confess I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos lately. I'm into a couple more of these self-sufficiency type programs where I found another family. There's husband, wife and daughter and a son. You don't often see the son in it, but the daughter's there quite regularly. But they bought this small farm and they've really been working very hard at doing it up, and they've got goats on it and chickens on it, and they've just been building a big barn that also incorporates stuff for the goats, and it's a really nice wee system they've got. But by golly, they both work very hard on it. I mean, I've just been watching them. They've built, they've been working on insulating the barn because they want to be able to work there in the winter, which is pretty cold where they are, and so they're getting it insulated. But there's a lot of work to do in preparation for it to be insulated, I have to say. But they both, husband and wife, work very hard together. And she's cutting up with a plane saw. She's cutting up wood to a certain size, and she's going to do 27 of these. So she goes away and does 27. Right, now we need 8 of those. Now we need 16 of these, and she measures it all out and does it. She does a great job, basically. And they're also showing you some of the things they're cooking as well, which is quite interesting. And then there's another one which I don't quite know where it's going, but again he's bought this defunct farm, run down really badly, but he's been gradually working on it. They've done up the house, which is now quite nice. He's got a big workshop and everything, but he seems to have 2 or even 3 other places that he goes to. He seems to do a huge amount of mileage. He's always driving 8 hours to there or 4 hours to there, and everything like that. But again, it's fascinating because he's managed to get a tractor and he's managed to get it working properly, and he's got add-ons to the tractor now, so he's been clearing the land. And he's got deer on his farm, and he uses the webcams to take pictures of them, both stills and videos. But he's, yeah, I mean, I must confess, they work really, really hard, these people. They really do. Must be Scottish blood in them, because Scots have always worked hard. Put lots of hours in. But I mean, they're usually go to bed maybe 10, 11 at night, but they're always up maybe 5 or 6 in the morning, so. So I'll maybe give you a link to these 2, so if you're interested you can watch them yourselves. I'm still watching Sean James, the Northern Ontario chap, this Self-Reliance is called. So I still watch his videos. Although I think he's losing the plot a little bit, but we'll see how it develops anyway. So there you go anyway. So that's what I've been up to, is watching more videos. So I'm having a more relaxing time, you might say. Also, I might add, I've just been spending a small fortune on getting my house exterior repainted. So there's, and of course I have to say, because I'm in Canada, people I get to do these jobs usually is cash only. So I'm having to go back to the bank, get cash out, pay them some more, then I'll have to go back to the bank, get some more. And, mind you, it's saving, I would say at least $1,000 for sure, because I was going to get sockets put around the windows and everything. But as the guy that's doing the job said, he said, well, your paint's lasted not bad, it's just this year it's really got quite bad now. But But he said, when was it repainted? And I said, well, when I bought the house 16 years ago now. He said, well, he said, given that you say you're going to live to 70 years and 10, he said, this paint job will last you for the rest of your life then, he said. And I thought, well, good point. So the only trouble is right at the top of the house, because it's quite a tall house, is how to get up there. And he's looking at maybe doing a ladder. I'm a wee bit worried about that because, you know, he's not going to be very secure up there, and maybe he should spend some money to get some scaffolding to go up. But he seems to be happy enough to get the big tall ladder and do it from there. But anyway, he's done a good job. He's got one more day left. When he gets his big ladder, he'll finish the painting, and he's just going to clear out the backyard, and that'll be all it done. So there's maybe another 7 hours or something. So about another 100 I've got to find for him, and that'll be it. Got all the paint we need and everything, so yeah. But that's going to look nice when it's all finished. I'll take another photograph when it's all done. Okay, anyway, won't hold you up, so hope you enjoyed the newsletter. There's always some interesting stories there. And obviously, any comments, always pleased to hear from you. Any suggestions as well. Have a great weekend when it comes. Take care. Bye-bye.